Yes, on May 17th, the International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia, Interphobia and Transphobia is a day to celebrate diversity and to raise awareness of the human rights of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender and intersex people. LGBTIQ+ people continue to face serious challenges in their everyday life, also in the hockey world. But today and every day, we from Hockey's Diversity stand in solidarity with the LGBTIQ+ community. We want to talk to our friends about their personal experience and how we can make our game more inclusive and welcoming for all. And today we have Jeff McLean. Jeff is the co-founder of Pridetape, and we are very proud to have him here today. Welcome, Jeff.
Welcome. Nice to see everybody in person, or at least virtually outside of Instagram for a change. So really excited about this, and nice to meet everybody.
Thank you, Jeff. We have also Jon Lee-Olsen here. Jon is playing currently as a goalie for the Gladsaxe. I'm not sure if I said the name correct, but I think it's Gladsaxe in Denmark. Welcome, Jon.
Thank you. You are totally right. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Jon. Much appreciated. We also have Zach Sullivan here today. Zach plays currently for the Manchester Storm in the EIHL. And welcome, Zach. Thank you for participating today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
And last but not least, we have Richard Schütz here today. Richard is a well-known international referee from our hometown in Krefeld, Germany. His referee career started in 1981. He has since then refereed well over 2,000 games and around 500 in the German Hockey League, the DEL, and over 200 international games. And he's also a member of the German Hockey Hall of Fame. Welcome, Richard.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me, and I'm already curious about the next hour.
Yeah, so right off the bat, we are going to interview Jeff. Jeff from Pridetape. So Jeff, our first question is: Pridetape is long now a global international movement, but tell us when and how was the idea of Pridetape born?
Well, thanks, Martin. It's been 5 years, but it seems to have gone by in a blink of an eye. It's been so quick, and but really, it's a testament to Hockey is Diversity, your group, and so many organizations around the world that have. We always say we just make tape, you make it powerful. There's been tens of thousands of individuals that have put Pridetape on their stick in 32 countries, every province and state in North America. This really started out as a project that I spearheaded with a company I was working for 5 years ago called Calder Bateman Communications in Edmonton, Canada. I have a marketing and communications background, creative director, art director at agencies all across Canada over my 30-year career. And working with my friend and mentor, Frank Calder, we had done a lot of projects in the LGBTQ+ space, working with our friend, Dr. Chris Wells, who was at the University of Alberta at the time. And the precursor to Pridetape was a project that we worked on called nohomophobes.com, which is a website that's still up, that scrapes homophobic tweets in real time off Twitter. That was the brainchild of my friend and colleague, Pierre Chan. And what we noticed with that website, that homophobic tweets were spiking during major sporting events, particularly the Super Bowl, NHL, Major League Baseball playoffs, etc. So we wanted to address the issue of homophobia in sports, and we chose hockey as a way in because, living in Canada, Edmonton, hockey is a way of life, and we had, friends and other members of our world kind of in the NHL and around the NHL and the hockey world. I played very poorly for 21 years growing up, but loved the sport, and I'm a huge fan. So we just felt that, over to me to try and figure out how we could stop homophobia in sports, which was a pretty lofty ambition. And so Pridetape really started out as one photograph of somebody putting hockey tape on their stick that in Photoshop I just made different colors. And then we just anticipated that this project was, maybe going to go for a month or two, like any traditional ad campaign, and hopefully get noticed and picked up across Canada. But driving to work one day, I just kind of asked myself the question, well, if they can put repeat patterns on hockey tape, like the Batman logo or the Hockey Canada logo, maybe they can do repeat colors. So we reached out to the NHL and asked them, who was supplying their tape, because we knew that if this could actually happen and we could make tape that young people would want to use the tape that the pros are doing, their mentors are using. So we went down that rabbit hole and spent a couple months trying to figure out how the tape could be made. And then in fact, it could. And then we had to do a Kickstarter campaign to raise the money to print the first 10,000 rolls. So that's really where it got noticed. It got picked up by the Guardian newspaper the next day. And then all the NHL teams started calling and said, we want to be a part of this. So we just felt that this badge of support that we'd created for the LGBTQ community by the hockey world was there was something here to this idea, and we got pretty excited about it. But to be perfectly honest with you all, we kind of had no idea where it was going to go. We were just hopeful that this mattered to people, and as it turns out, again after 5 years, it's a real testament to all the people that have the bravery and the courage to put it on their sticks and use it to show young people that they're welcome in the hockey world or in the sports space. And again, the goal to make it more inclusive for everyone is working. So again, that's over to you though. That's all of you, Martin, and your group and others that feel it's important. So the fact that it matters to so many, we just continue to try and get the tape out. Dean in Vancouver, who ships it all over the world, we just work off the corner of our desks. Aside from our real jobs, we volunteer for this to just trying to make it happen. We've had exciting meetings with the NHL this week about where it's headed. So we're very grateful, very thankful to all the people around the world that support us. But it's been an exciting 5 years.
Yeah, and what a ride it has been, and it's very inspirational to hear your story and how everything started, and it reminds me of what the anthropologist Margaret Mead once said, that never doubt that a small group of citizens can change the world. And I think with Pridetape you have changed the hockey world. You have contributed to change the hockey world, and we really appreciate that it has become so international now. So Jeff, my second question, as you've mentioned, you're receiving great support from the NHL, but was it a difficult process to convince the league to become engaged? But from what you have been saying, it sounded like it was not a very difficult process.
Not at all. I mean, friendships right from the very beginning. In fact, the NHL got involved even before we got started. As I mentioned, we had to create a Kickstarter campaign to raise the money to produce the first 10,000 rolls. So when we did our press release and looked for help to get people involved, they reached out right away. The Edmonton Oilers were about a week away from their skills competition that they do before the All-Star game, at least before COVID happened. But they called us up and said, we would like to use, Pridetape hadn't been created because we hadn't raised the money yet. They did a prototype at their skills competition. So we went to the arena and wrapped all the players' sticks with 6 different colored rolls of tape, and they all hit the ice with it, and it was unbelievable. And that got picked up in the press, not only on the front page of the paper here in Edmonton, but across Canada. And as I mentioned, the Guardian newspaper were the first to pick it up, and all over the world, in fact, right away. And also Brian Burke and his family supported us as well, because what happened with Kickstarter, we had really at the time, this was our first Kickstarter campaign. We didn't really know how it worked. So, we had a lot of fingers crossed. But what happened is that we were about 2 days away from reaching our goal, and we were significantly short of our goal. And that's where the Oilers stepped in, and Brian Burke and his family stepped in and said, we want to put you over the top. We want to make this happen. So they donated money that allowed us to make the first 10,000 rolls. So if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't exist. And then the same with the NHL. They called immediately. We flew to New York to meet with them, and they said, we're a big company. There's lots of procedures and things that things, the way things have to roll out, but we are going to kind of fast track this because we feel it's really important. And they have just been unbelievably supportive since the beginning. And then obviously you see all 32 teams, even with Seattle before they had their name and their logo, they were supporting Pridetape 3 years ago. So, and now they're really supportive along with the other 31 teams. And so the NHLPA and the NHL have been unbelievably supportive since the very beginning. And again, without them, we certainly wouldn't exist.
Oh, this is very exciting to hear, Jeff. So my third question is, hockey, you played it yourself, and I'm born 79, so a lot of education was not there in regards to that. But as you know, hockey is still associated with macho culture. Do you see progress in terms of the game creating an inclusive culture?
We absolutely see it through our social media every day. The negativity that we were witness to on our feed, and Twitter specifically starting out, it was pretty huge. There was a lot of negativity, and like nohomophobes.com that I mentioned, you can actually see the numbers trending on there that things are getting better, and we've actually sensed that they're getting a lot better. I will mention, Martin, I'm a lot older, so in 1979, when you were born, I was playing hockey as a little kid in Germany. I lived in Baden-Baden for 4 years and played hockey. Yeah, I played hockey all over Europe as a traveling team. But our goalie was Bill Ranford, Conn Smythe Trophy winner, and 15 years in the NHL. So we didn't lose that often, but our team was bad, but our goalie was amazing. So, but I find that my time in Germany and traveling Europe, and really at a young age, got me interested in just loving opening yourself up to other cultures and other ways of life. And I think curiosity is sometimes, undervalued. I think it's great to want to understand everyone, on this planet. And I think that that's a big driver for what led me to want to do the work I was doing in marketing and advertising. Certainly curiosity and tapping into cultures and seeing what moves people and gets people interested and excited is really enjoyable for me. And what we've seen with Pridetape through parents and the young people playing the game and all those around the game have I'm very, very hopeful. It's those individuals that are, what we see a lot is the kids are actually teaching the parents in a lot of cases about how to be more inclusive. And it's going back and forth, so that the parents are I think teaching their kids and vice versa. But I think where we see the most opportunity for more inclusive communities and safer spaces is with our young people, and so we try and do what we can to really celebrate what they're doing, because it matters. And so that's really where our focus is, and certainly with the NHL. As well. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. My last question is, I know you have great support from all of the NHL teams, and there's a lot of visibility now for Pridetape in the league, and I'm certain that the players are educating themselves on this very important issue. But when do you think we will see the first active gay NHL player?
Well, that's a that's a difficult question to look into the future like that. But I will tell you that we are a lot closer than we were, say, 3 years ago or 5 years ago, thanks in part to everyone on this panel. I mean, they are the leaders, they are the mentors that the young people are looking up to. We know for a fact that the math tells us there are gay players playing right now in the NHL. The reasons for them not wanting to come out at this time are their own, but all we can do is keep trying to promote a better and safer culture around hockey at all levels. We know that with young players that have come out, like Yannick Duplessis. I'm not sure if you're aware of Yannick, who's from Moncton in Canada. I've spoken to Yannick and his mom on a number of occasions. Great people. It's the bravery and courage of the younger folks like Yannick that are looking up to Jon and Zach and what they're doing in the hockey space. And so I'm hopeful that, I'd like to say within a year, within 2 years, it will be more normalized. And like we always say too, we created Pridetape so that one day we don't need Pridetape. And we've seen it move pretty significant places in 5 years, a lot more than we expected. So I'm hopeful that it will be soon, but I think it's going to be some young player who's incredibly talented that has come out and that's moving up through the ranks that gets drafted into the NHL. And I'm hoping that's very soon.
Yes, thank you, Jeff. I will now turn to Jon Lee-Olsen. Jon is one of those brave people that we have here, and we are very proud to have you, Jon. Jon, my first question to you. You made the decision to come out of the closet during a TV interview in October 2019. But just tell us about the process you went through to come to that moment.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, it was kind of special because, all my time before, coming out, I always had in mind how I would do it if I got the chance to play professional and have a space where I could talk. And I've seen other players, especially in football. I looked to Sweden at Anton Hussein, who was one of the first football players who came up professionally, and he did it at a sports magazine. And I felt like I wanted to do it where I could use my own words and really show myself and speak from my heart. And I got the opportunity to do it on the Danish television, and I felt like, for me at that time, it was the best way to do it. Really speak from my heart and tell how I felt and why I wanted to do it right now, and not have the place where your words could be edited in some kind of way. And for me, I wanted to really control what I wanted to say and really have a good thought about what I did. And I feel like the way that TV2 did it for me was really perfect for me. It was a good way to do it. Of course, there's always things you would do differently, but I still feel like it was, for me, the best way to do it.
Yes, it's a great choice that you made. My second question to you, Jon, before that moment, did you talk to your teammates or close friends or family members before making that decision, and how was it perceived by them?
Yeah, it took, I think it took me at least 2 years where I really feel like now I feel ready to do it, till I did it on television. And I talked to especially a lot of my friends and family, and my boyfriend at that time, who I met at a city in Denmark who's really small and plays hockey. So his family and friends comes from hockey. So it was really nice to have him too, who knew the ways of hockey, and having him supporting me with my family and friends was really important for me and really helped me a lot. And I had a friend close to me in hockey too, who actually found out, and he told me that, you know, we know the guys on the team, and he knows them, and he knows me, and he told me that people would just feel comfortable with it. It wouldn't be any big issue, and that he knows the guys would stand behind me, and he wouldn't tell anybody. He would never do that, but he wanted to tell me that everybody would support me, and that he would be by my side doing it. So having him and all the other people around me really helped me a lot with like gaining this kind of support to go out and do it. And for me, I would rather do it while still playing pro than start playing professional, then coming out and feel like, oh shit, don't really know exactly how the hockey world would react. So for me, having that in my head was really determined to try and do it while I still was playing professional hockey.
Yeah, and one of the Danish NHL player, Lars Eller, he applauded you for your bravery, and I'm sure it has also a lot to do with Pridetape doing tremendous great work, not only in the NHL, but making this more visible. And but for the words from Lars Eller, who applauded you for this brave, for this brave standing. What did these encouraging words from Lars Eller mean to you? Or is there any reaction or comment that stands out from that time?
Yeah, it was, of course, it's always nice to have your fellow nationalist hockey player from NHL, you know, applauding you, and especially the words he said that meant something to me that I really listened to was that the fact that he knew guys who, you know, was homosexual and who didn't come out or who was still playing professional, and that was kind of hard to hear that you know they still feel like they wasn't ready. But I mean, everybody has their own way and their own life, and they choose to do it or not. But I feel like if it's because they are afraid of how hockey community will react, it's kind of horrible and something that I would feel sad about. So those things stuck a lot with me when he talked and the interview he did. But of course, yeah, it's something that I would hope would change now, especially with Pridetape and you guys doing all this work to make it easier for players like us to come out. Hopefully, in a younger age than I did, because that's what I really are hoping for. You know, it's something that I'm happy to hear the story, Yannick. You know, that coming out so young is something that I was hoping for, and I was so glad to hear that story. Really meant a lot to me. So I was so happy to hear that story.
Yes, Jon. My last question to you right now is: did the time before you came out of the closet affect your game? Was it something that affected you while playing, and what did it feel like to be on the ice after your coming out?
Oh, I remember so clearly. Like I did send the message to my teammates. I think it was 2 hours before practice first day in the preseason, and I was so nervous that I just threw my phone in the sofa and didn't look at it for like half an hour. And after all the messengers, I got back and coming down to the locker room was just, I was so excited and nervous in the same time, but I was so happy and so relieved. So I had all this emotion inside of me, but I was so happy that I could go down to the locker room and, you know, don't have to have a different face on some days, you know, and don't play a little bit of a different role than I really am. And don't have that insecurity around yourself was really something that helped me with my game too. Of course, you have days when you come down in the locker room, you have things in your life that you want to talk about that you can't talk about, and then you hear people asking questions about something that you can't really answer to. So it can be really tough and really hard some days to feel that way when you play hockey, and especially when it's professional hockey, it affects your game a lot, and it makes it a lot tougher. You have to really have a tough mentality. And after coming out, I feel like I was such a better player, and I felt much more happy, and I didn't feel that I was having so many bad days. I felt more like I was more confident, and of course it shows a lot in the way I played. Guys was coming to me and telling me that you could see the difference in the way I played. I was more confident, and it felt like I was more happy and played played better than I did before, because I didn't have that, you can say, aura around me that wasn't really me. I was myself a lot more, and of course that's something that you put onto the ice too. And I feel like if it was this feeling that I had, I mean, it must be the same thing that everybody else has in my situation, that you're taking a little bit from yourself and not really putting on the ice, because you're using that energy just to stay alive in the locker room, if you can say it like that.
Right. Yes, thank you very much, Jon, for sharing your experiences. We really appreciate it. I will now turn to Zach. Zach, my first question to you. January 26, 2020. What does this date mean to you?
It's probably still one of, if not the best day of my life. It's also probably the scariest day of my life. It's kind of like Jon said, it was the day that I kind of decided was the best time to come out. Yeah, I remember waking up and kind of just tweeting at 10 o'clock in the morning, and kind of the same thing as Jon. I threw my phone away, didn't want to look at it, didn't want to look at the responses. And I remember one of my teammates came out and said, "How are you feeling?" And I was like, "I just need a hug." And he gave me a big hug, and I was just kind of relaxed after that. And yeah, it was a really special day. Remember getting to the rink and all my teammates asked me to do the ceremonial puck drop, which usually the captain does. And the fans were even more insane than they usually are. And we had fans come from all around the country to come and watch the game. So it was a really, really special day. Still a lot of emotion when I look back at it.
Yeah, and by coming out of the closet, you became the first active pro hockey player to come out as bisexual, and you mentioned it already a little bit, but how was it perceived by your teammates, coaching staff, opponents, and spectators? Was it similar to the experience that Jon made with a very supportive environment?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my teammates knew a long time before I came out. I came out in January, and I've kind of been telling them one by one since November the year before. So they kind of all already knew. And I was, like Jon would say, I was playing a lot better. I felt a lot happier. And it's just it's a bit of a cliche, but the weight was lifted off my shoulder. I didn't have to pretend to be someone else, someone that I wasn't. I wasn't hiding anything from my teammates, from that second family that your hockey team is. And I remember the opposing, we were in a playoff, whoever won the game would make playoffs, and their captain took the time to say nice words to me before the game, and nearly made me cry on the ice, which would have been a little bit embarrassing, but no, it was the reaction was great. And even this year we've just had our kind of elite series for the IHL, and we had a couple of Norwegians playing, and they had Jeff's Pridetape from their Pride game in Norway. So they gave me my first ever roll of Pridetape, which I was really happy about. And but the biggest thing for me was that they treated me exactly the same. I wasn't the bisexual ice hockey player. I was still Zach Sullivan, their teammate, their friend, and I think that was the biggest thing for me. I was just treated the same player, same person.
Wow, but I think everyone can just wish for such a supportive environment. It must have been a great feeling to feel the support from the teams, from even opponents, and that must have been great.
Yeah.
And Zach, as a 14 or 15-year-old kid playing hockey, you mentioned in an interview that you went through some mental health struggles. Can you tell us more about it?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was kind of around the age where I realised that I wasn't straight. I think everyone who's LGBT plus gets that kind of realisation moment, and it was around the time that one of my best friends passed away as well, and he was kind of my closest friend, and I was thinking of telling him, and kind of the whole world came crumbling down around me, kind of, and yeah, I think it was just struggling with who I was as a person. It's especially, it's over 10 years ago now. It wasn't the most accepting culture, and yeah, I was worried about what my friends and family. I was worried if you know, I'd be alone and nobody would want to talk to me, and yeah, it was a very tough time in my life, and it's still obviously, as you can tell, quite emotional, but yeah, it's I struggled with kind of that feeling of isolation and not having anyone to talk to about what I really wanted to talk to, and kind of very similar to Jon again, where, you know, I had to pretend to be someone else around people that I was around every day, and it took a big toll, and it yeah, it definitely affected my mental health negatively.
Yes. So Zach, so looking back on this experience, what would you tell kids being in a similar age like you back then, that are going through similar experiences? What would you tell them?
I think the biggest thing for me is just to be yourself. You know, my biggest regret is that I didn't come out sooner. You know, I've missed so much of my life being able to live who I really am, and I think that's the biggest thing. Be yourself. Surround people with people that just don't care about people's sexuality or gender identity. It's none of their business. It's your life. Live it how you want to live it, and yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. Surround yourself with people that care about you because of you, not because of what you think or who you're attracted to. And I think that would be my biggest piece of advice.
Thank you very much, Dex, for sharing your experiences. I will now turn to Richard. Richard, you know, you are very well traveled person around the world as an international referee. And you know, in Germany, soccer, as in many other European countries, soccer has a high visibility. And the former German soccer national team captain, Philipp Lahm, advised in his book Soccer Players not to come out of the closet during their active careers. He explains that he sees very slim chances that a coming out will be successful in the German Bundesliga. And he explains also that not all opponents and spectators will have the maturity to encounter this with the respect that what we heard from Zach and Jon, that the spectators had been very supportive about that. But the player who would come out, as Philipp Lahm mentioned, out of the closet will endure verbal insults and abuse. But what do you think personally about Philipp Lahm's remark?
Well, I think he describes the status quo, the actual status quo in the German soccer league quite well, because he's not a homophobic person. He's good with LGBTI people, and yeah, he's describing it very well. He also talked about Thomas Hitzelsberger. He came out after finishing his career, and what I would have wished from him by this statement, he could have done a little bit more for because I mean, as a team leader of the national team that won the world championship, he's one of the, I don't know, outstanding 4 or 5 people in the soccer that their voice will count, even though until they die at least, you know. So he could have been a little bit more, I wouldn't say offensive, but he could give a little bit more braveness maybe, or advise people to be a little bit more brave to do this, and he could also send some support from his side, like he would support it. Words like that would have maybe helped. This is missing in his statement. But I saw yesterday a statement from what's his name, Goritz,
the
player
Bayern Munich player.
Bayern Munich player, and what's his name, Goritza, and he said a little bit different. He said, and he's also 31 years old, so he's an experienced player, and he said that he wouldn't agree with Philipp Lahm. So even though this interview of Philipp Lahm is, as I know, not too old, I think on the other hand, even though things are changing there, and he also didn't get only good critics for this statement. So I think he describes the status quo quite well, but what is missing is a little bit more support from his side to make people to give people braveness to come out in the end, or to stand to their sexuality. This is my opinion about his remark. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Richard. The second question to you is: did you experience you also played hockey as well before you were a referee as a player? Did you experience verbal insults and abuse as a player and later on as a referee?
I mean, as a referee, you get insulted a lot by players on the ice, sometimes by the audience. Even the press is not always polite with you. So I mean, as referee, you get a lot of insulting comments from all sides. I never got abused in a way. And I never got insulted like with like fucking faggot or these kind of words, like LGBTI insulting words. This never happened. This never happened. I have to say. And if people said it, they said it because it's a bad word in their way. It's an insulting word in their opinion, but they didn't say it to me because they knew that I'm gay or something like that. Right. So I got a lot of insulting, yes. But you as a referee, you have to learn to live with that, of course.
Yeah. As a referee, I understand. I understand. Richard, so my third question to you is against the former German soccer national team captain Philipp Lahm's advice. Zach and Jon did something very brave and very important, coming out of the closet. But how important is this in a macho hockey culture and also for you personally?
I think it's very important because, as Jeff already said in the beginning, that every person who does it is one more person who does it. So and if it gets, as more people do it, as more normal it gets in the end. So if it gets to a status where it's not necessary to talk about it anymore, then we are there where we normally have to be, And I mean, in society, like but here you have to make difference in the societies of North America and Western Europe. Also, like LGBTI people are a lot more accepted, like for 10 or 15 or 20 or 25 years ago. If you go more east or more south, it's a little bit more different, of course. And this is something which also is a little bit important to come out as a hockey player in Russia might be different than come out as a hockey player in Norway or Sweden or Canada. So the society, the basic in the society is made, at least in North America and in Western Europe. And it would be great if more and more people stand to their sexuality, and if they do this, it gets normal. And so what Zach and Jon did is very brave, and it's I hope it's just a beginning of a wave,
Yeah, that would be wonderful. But Richard, you have been very well traveled. You know the the national and also the international hockey world. You have seen a lot from the hockey world, actually. And do you think that the governing hockey bodies, like the World Hockey Federation and the professional teams, not only in Germany, create the right environment and conditions for active players to come out of the closet?
As I said before, I think there are some leagues who have already a diversity statute by law in their documents, which is already, I mean, something. The second thing is already to make it alive, you know, and Pridetape and all these things and coming out are helping with that a lot, I guess. And the IHF, as far as I know, I don't know if they have something, but in preparation of this meeting, I checked the website and I didn't find anything. And that's a pity in a way, you know, because the International Ice Hockey Federation, as a international covering body of ice hockey, should have a statement for that as well, you know. That would be very important. But as I said before, the IHF is also led by East European countries, which are, I mean, look, if the country is homophobic, you can't expect that the covering body of sports isn't, you know. So that's really like go to Russia, go to Belarus, go to these countries. There, it's not possible at all, you know.
Yeah, we have seen. I mean, the hockey world has seen the picture with I think IHF President Fazel hugging the Belarusian president, and I think the Belarusian country is not very open to diversity in that regard, and I think that picture made a statement somehow. But that would be another topic, Richard.
Yes, absolutely.
So my next question to you, you are still active as a referee. I mean, you have been refereeing also in our under-17 international tournament in Berlin, but you're also working as a referee commissioner for the German DEL League. You know, by being in the stands, have you experienced homophobic chants while observing the game from spectators and fan stands?
Never, no, never. I got never any. There were never made any insults, comments, never any remarks to that. No, I have to say no, really no. On ice, on off ice, no.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much, Richard. I will now open the floor to all of you. This is a question for all. You know, the question Brian Burke mentioned in an interview in regards to homophobic insults that he believes that it is habitual to hockey players, which needs to change. A hurtful comment made out of habit, in the words of Sean Avery, and from the NHL going to the NBA, who have taken a zero tolerance approach to homophobic slurs, punish players with hefty fines. But how important is this zero tolerance approach, and how can we push to have the zero tolerance approach integrated in our sport regulations and code of conduct? So any one of you feel free to answer.
Well, I can chime in first. I know from experience. I went out to a friend's. His son was playing in a tournament in West Edmonton last year, and bantam age kids. And one of the kids in the game used a homophobic slur. He was immediately ejected. They have a zero tolerance policy. I'm not sure how widespread it is across the country, but I know many minor hockey associations, have a zero tolerance approach, and I think it's a great thing to do. I think it's important, and back again to what I said earlier. I think that's where we need to foster the culture change is with our kids, and And I think, having been there and witnessed it, the strongest part was that he had to go tell his parents why he was ejected, not only from the game. This was the first game of a 2-day tournament. He was ejected from the tournament. So, I mean, he had to go and tell his parents why. And that, as you could imagine, would be incredibly tough. And hopefully, and from what I hear, he has learned from it, and not only him, but everybody on the team and everybody on the other team, and then everybody through the tournament. So I think it's important to instill those zero tolerance rules and regs at the lower levels of hockey as they're growing up, and I think that's where we'll see the shift.
Yes,
Yeah,
Richard.
yeah, okay. Yeah,
I agree 100%. If the youngsters explain their parents how it works, and if they come from the lower level hockey then to the top level hockey and have a clear mind about LGBTI, then it changes a lot. And I think it will come to a point where it's not no subject anymore. I mean, I don't know if it will take 10 or 20 or 30 years, but it should come to that point, because
Yes.
it's not important.
Yes, thank you, Richard. Jon, you wanted to add, I think.
Yeah. When I came out, the Danish Ice Hockey Federation and my club too, they came out and they set the rules that were there already with the racial slurs and homophobic slurs as well, and said that there would be a 5-minute game misconduct and a fine, and it would be I think it would be 1 or 2 game suspension as well. And they came out and told this rule again after I came out, which I thought was really helpful. And I heard there was still, I could really feel that this the thing that Berg said went quite well with what happened with me after what I came out. When we played football in warm-ups for practice of games, that you can hear with somebody did something that would be kind of non-masculine, if you can say it like that. They would throw out the word faggot in the Danish word for it, and I would, if I didn't say anything, they were quick to to see it themselves and blush a little bit and be quite honest about what they did and talk to me afterwards. So else I would be pretty quick to tell them if they didn't say anything, and I would say like, hey, stop that, and usually what would happen afterward was they would come to me and feel embarrassed, and we had an honest talk together, and I would tell them and why you shouldn't do it and why this is wrong, and he would say that he didn't meant to do it like that, because he's of course he's not homophobic in any way, and for him it was kind of routine thing to do.
Yes.
But then I would tell him, yeah, you do it because somebody did something that you feel negatively, and you say it by you saying a homophobic slur, you feel like I'm not as manly as you are, which is totally wrong. And I mean, you can be manly in so many ways, but that's just so toxic. And even some of my best friends from hockey would actually do this, and I would brush it off and talk to them afterwards, and I would say, hey, come on, and tell them it's not right, and having that talk afterward really helped a lot. And I feel like it happened a couple of times, a little more than I would expect, but I could see that thing that it would take. When I talked about it afterward with my friends who didn't play hockey, a lot of us would say that, yeah, it's gonna take some years and it's horrible, but it will. But I feel like already now, when it's been 2 years, I can feel the difference just in society in Denmark about telling these words. And it's a lot have happened since then. Mm-hmm. With all the things as well that has a big effect on this. But I feel like the topic of talking about it has been a lot better than two years ago. And I feel like me and Zach and Yannick coming out is helping to have that talk about it. So I feel like it's too much, still too much to to hear it, like a little bit, like every day. Now I'm not really hearing that much anymore.
Yeah, I think like Richard was saying, I think chirping or insulting each other is kind of part of hockey culture, and kind of my response to it is there's plenty of other words in our language to insult someone without using a homophobic slur, especially when you know there's a guy that's out on your team. He's finally like had the courage. He's gone through his trials and tribulations to get to where he is, to have the confidence to be open about his sexuality or her sexuality. You can't, like, there's plenty of other ways to tell someone you don't like them without using a homophobic slur, and that's kind of what I say, and kind of what Jon said. When the most common response I get is, "Oh, I didn't mean it like that," and my response is, "Well, how did you mean it?" And there's never an answer. There's never. So I think they kind of get a little bit embarrassed and kind of blush, like Jon said, and realize that they've screwed up. But I think kind of without calling guys out for doing that, then they won't realize that it's wrong. So I think there's still a lot of work to be done with kind of eradicating that language. And I use an example of you wouldn't use a racial slur against a black man, so why would you use one against against a gay man or a LGBT person?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, this leads me to my last question. Jon mentioned it a little bit with the Danish Hockey Federation, but what do you guys think about, is enough being done from the national perspective, but also from the international hockey world for the education? Richard mentioned there's nothing on the IHF side, and I doubt that there's something on their code of conduct or a sport regulation or any regulation in that regard that where it stands with terms of educating and acceptance of gay athletes. So the question, is enough being done in the hockey world, of national or international, for the education and acceptance of gay athletes?
I'll carry on if that's all right.
Yes, please.
I think the simple answer is no, enough isn't being done. I was in the running to be picked for Team GB to go to the top group of World Championships, and while I didn't make the team, I was genuinely worried about going to Latvia, considering the teams we were playing. We were playing Team Russia first, we were playing Team Belarus, and I was worried about playing against those teams. So yeah, there's still a lot of work to be done. I don't know what that work is. I'm not going to sit here and preach, but no, enough isn't being done. I was victim of a homophobic slur in my league in the UK, and I reported it through the normal channels. And as far as I was aware, nothing was done. So it's great to show support and do the Pride games and Pride events and support Jeff and the Pridetape campaign. But actually, if you're not going to do anything behind the scenes afterwards, then you're not actually doing anything. So no, I don't think enough is being done at all.
Right. Yes, thank you, Zach. Jon, did you want, or Richard?
I would agree to. Sorry, Jon. I would agree to Zach. In some leagues, they have a code in it. Like in the German Hockey League, we have part of the game, Teil des Spiels. There it's included. There it's part of it. And I don't know if you know, but we had the racistic. If the other guys know from not being in Germany, we had a racist abuse in the league to a colored guy, and the player got fined with I think 10 games suspension. And the league did a very clear statement I liked a lot, that exactly that there is no place for racism, and that the league is a diverse organization. And I think it's the same as I mentioned it already. It depends on the country. And as the IHF and as ice hockey is a big sport, especially in the East European countries as well, I think the IHF has some difficulties to make this point in their rules or in their codes of conduct. Maybe if the new president comes, we will see if he might take this on the agenda. It's time for it, I think.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think from my personal experience, having worked with the IHF, very closely in that regard. I hope that the new leadership will finally also reflect themselves on and bring themselves to the 21st century, and not be in the past, not living in the past, in the 19th century. This feeling I had in regards to the cultural sensitivity in being in Korea, for example, working with Korean people. Of course, they cannot speak English, and I think making fun of it's not the way of good working culture and environment, and very poorly from their side. But I think this will be another topic. I think, Jon, I think you wanted to mention something on the last questions that I had in regards to the education acceptance of gay athletes.
Yeah, it's really also what Zach said about when he was younger and finding his own sexuality. I can really relate to that a lot. I feel it's really I really feel it's so cool that he talked about it so openly, because it's actually something I feel like talking about more now than I did when I came out, because it really affected me a lot too, coming out and playing hockey, and it's exactly like almost exactly the same feeling in my mind, and really having a tough time even sleeping for quite a long time, and coming up to my family that time was really helped me a lot. But I feel like because of that, doing more for the younger kids and talk about it more, and like you said, your own federation, doing a little bit more is something that would help a lot. Having Pride Night, it's also a big step ahead for some kids and players to use that as a platform, and the things that you do with hockey's diversity, Martin and Jeff, with Pridetape, is something that helps a lot, because we're seen, and we have a platform to talk about these things, and I feel like right now that's the things we have to do, and that helps a lot, because the teams and federation will listen to us and see like, oh, we need to have these things. I wanted to do more in my own league, and I feel it's still something they are not that ready to do. Hopefully we can have a Pride Night next year, but I feel like it's still a lot of steps ahead, like Zach said and Richard. We have a long way to go still, and they aren't ready enough yet. But hopefully soon it will be better, and especially even here in Europe, it's quite a difficult fight to have.
Yeah, I'll jump in, and I agree with what everyone is saying. I think a couple of important points is that at the end of the day, as a testament to this call, is that people drive it. Organizations aside, I can tell you from our experience within the NHL, like there are real heroes and champions like Joe Altino with the New Jersey Devils, who runs the Prudential Center, or Peter Lovins with the Columbus Blue Jackets. It usually comes down to a person who's driving this and feels that this is really important. And what we've seen with Pridetape is kind of a push-pull, is that when things get stalled at the high levels, with big organizations which, want to do the right things, but, there's protocols and processes and all the rest of it, it's the people and the grassroots that just say, you know what, we're just going to go for it. We're just going to do it because we believe in this. And then all of a sudden those bigger organizations go, wait, look at what these young people are doing, or this little organization over here is doing. And I'll tell you that there was a situation in the United States where a minor hockey association wanted to ban Pridetape because of what it stood for. and a parent and their young son went to the board and fought it and won, and now they use it throughout the organization. So it's people that care at all levels, that are making a huge difference. And one thing else I'll say is, like, if you didn't see it on our social this week, we are now we created a strikeout hate campaign, first with minor league baseball out of Florida, but now we're working with baseball, softball, UK, your neck of the woods, Zach. So they, again, a small group of people that really care, and said, we want to amplify these messages. And now, we are now working with Major League Baseball and collegiate baseball in the United States, because they looked at what hockey has done, and they said, we love what you're doing with hockey. We want to work with you as well on strikeout hate through baseball. So now baseball is starting to really elevate, the importance of all of these messages of inclusivity, et cetera, that are really so important. So it all comes down to individuals. Like, to me, I mean, organizations are great aside, but it's usually very passionate people within those organizations that are driving it. And that sometimes we feel is unfortunate, that, people will sling arrows at large organizations or sporting organizations and say they're not doing enough, when there are actually, what we've been lucky to see is the people behind the scenes that are trying very hard and working very hard to make a difference. And it's a work in progress. Again, I think we have a long way to go, but again, the two words that jump out for me after the 5 years is collaboration and amplification. And this call is a true testament to that as well. Like, this will hopefully inspire others, and they will do things in their own communities to make a difference. I'm sure of it, because we've seen it.
Yes, thank you very much, Jeff. I think there couldn't be any better closing remarks. And thank you, everyone, for your leadership and also bringing normality, as Richard mentioned and you mentioned, Jeff, into the hockey world, so that it can become more inclusive for all, and that players do not have to wait another 3 or 4 generations, that this normality is there. And I found this wonderful quote from the former NBA player John Amachi, I think. Amachi. He said, and this is something what you have mentioned, Jeff, people make choices, and choices make culture. And if you make inclusive choices every day, your culture will be inclusive. And yeah, I want to thank everyone for
Thank you
being
for
here.
organizing it, Martin and Peter.
Yes, and I would like to take the opportunity also to thank everyone for your contributions, not only to this panel today, but bringing change to our hockey culture. And I'm sure with a kid, 14, 15-year-old kid can see this, and he feel inspired by the story of what John mentioned, Zach, Jeff with Pridetape, and Richard. Also your story, your personal experiences for being leaders, for inspiring and encouraging people that are being afraid, for those who feel voiceless, giving them a strong voice, and for pushing this to become part of our hockey DNA and normality. I want to thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.